Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And we're going to have so much fun today because we're talking about my favorite subject, podcasts. Yay! How much fun is this going to be? I cannot wait to learn from my guests. So please join me in welcoming Tiago Faria to our program today. Welcome, Tiago. How are you?
Oh, Deb, fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I cannot wait to talk about the random experiment I did last year.
I know.
It completely changed my business, so it's going to be fun for sure.
I love it. And of course, we should have hit record at the very start because we had 15 minutes of really good conversation. But yeah, so let me tell people just a little bit about you, and then we will jump in.
Yes.
So Tiago Faria helps experts do the most fun marketing they'll ever do and attract the most pre-sold leads they'll ever get. Oh, and by the way, he does it through podcast guesting. Talk about putting some pressure on me. Holy cow. Well, this is not what you started out doing. So tell us a little bit more about how it is that this is now your passion in life.
Absolutely, Deb. Fantastic question. It was a super interesting happening last year. So, but before that, for 5 years, I was creating a lot of content. I was overwhelming myself, especially on video. But first, it was on my blog, then on YouTube, then on Facebook as well. I was getting exhausted by it, because you're staring at the blank page, and then I have to come up with something interesting, or the camera is on. Okay, now I have to perform. It's time to make, and it started to make me hate it at some point. And last year, I burned out, and I stopped doing it completely. So started recycling my content. At some point it kind of stopped working because people just notice that you're just recycling old content and it's not the same energy. And so I started noticing a dip in the basically making sales, getting leads, right? So I was pushing a lot of people and cold messaging a lot, so I started to hate it even more. Wife was already getting worried. Things were getting tight. I was at that valley of despair stage. I wanted to grow my business basically, but I just couldn't go back to that hustle and grind of creating content all the time. It's really exhausting. So unpredictability started to come over. Financial roller coaster was basically the standard. Sleepless nights, thinking, okay, how am I gonna start another month from zero? We even considered going back to jobs, but no.
Having an employer?
No, please, no. It was 5 years of freedom. I could not go back to that, but there had to be a way. So and then the most amazing thing happened, which was just before we were going on holidays. We were going to Georgia here in Europe, which is a very random.
Not my Georgia. The
other
not your
Georgia. Georgia in Europe. But just before going, I received an email from one of my mentors, and nowadays my mentor. He had a new beta program open, and it was completely aligned with me because he was saying, okay, man, you don't need to make any content, just good old networking and referrals. I was like, okay, this is it. I'm going to go for it. Wifey agreed, maxed out the credit card for another high ticket program. I committed to it. And in the program, my mentor told me that podcast guesting was an amazing way to, increase your network, create partnerships. Yes, I committed to it. I went all in, and I'm usually obsessed when I put something on my mind, and I go very crazily obsessive and all in. And in 4 months, I booked 67 podcasts for me as a guest, right? Which is an insane amount of work. I don't recommend anyone to do it. It's no, please no. But it was definitely true. And you create a lot of connections with amazing people through the podcasting world, right? I started creating lots of partnerships. But Deb, do you know what was the best thing that happened? at some point, one of the hosts that I was interviewed on, she sent me an email saying, "Oh, the podcast is live, and by the way, here are some 5 reels you can use, of the best parts of your interview." And I was like, "Oh my God, free content
Cool. Yeah.
seamlessly extracted from me, right? Through a normal conversation like we're having here, right? And it's basically the dream marketing scenario because you don't have to be creating content artificially or forcefully. You're chatting
It
with a
truly
person.
is something you said.
Exactly. Having a chat to someone like I having here with Deb. And there's also the dream selling scenario because you also have access to new audiences that you would not have access otherwise, right? And those people listen to you. Their podcast listeners like to go deep. They like to get to know you better. They hear your story for 20 or 1 hour. And they get to know, like, and trust you. So it's a very different selling scenario once those right people approach you, right? But yeah, I made a ton of mistakes during that podcast blitz. I learned a lot by testing, trying different things. And also talking a lot to hosts, right? Some even coached me for free. There was this one lady that told me, I was trying to get on her podcast, and she said in the pre-interview chat, like we talked about, she said, Tiago, can I give you a piece of advice, feedback? You're just teaching a lot. You're just sharing information. It doesn't make you stand out from the pack. So you should be creating like your own framework, your unique approach. And so I got a lot of amazing
Right.
coaching.
Yeah.
And
Why do we want to talk to you?
exactly. And in the meantime, I was also posting all my interviews on my LinkedIn profile. And some people approached me like, Tiago, what the hell? What are you doing? Why are you suddenly everywhere? Can you show me how to do it? And this gave me a sign, okay, I should shift my business. There's a need here that I should I have something to share with people. So I completely changed my business to help people get this dream marketing scenario. And it's the dream marketing scenario because, as I said, we don't have to create content. It just gets extracted from us in a conversation. And by the way, my clients get the extra benefit of having dozens of reels also created for them just before one interview. But yeah, that's how exactly I got here. And the way I help people now is through the dream method, basically my framework that I created. If you want to talk about it later, we
you
can.
followed her advice.
Exactly. That's exactly how I came here.
I love it. Well, we'll talk about the dream method in a little bit more later, but it is so interesting because obviously, I believe in the importance of podcasting, not just sitting here talking to myself. But to me, it is a marketing tool, right? Just like your website, which you really should have. I mean, that's the thing. If you're going to be in business, you've got to have your own website. The people who come up to me and say, "Oh, I just have a Facebook business page." I'm like, no, that's somebody else's real estate. Don't ever do that. But yeah, it's just a marketing tool. So it needs to be the same messaging that you're putting out, on everything. And there are some people that podcasting is not for them. Fortunately, I've never had to interview somebody. Now, there have been a couple where it's been a little more challenging for me to interview them just because I can tell they're still new at it. And, but the cool thing is, if you are interested in being a guest, I think it would be impossible to not find podcasts that you could go on because there are literally millions. And there are some that are general, like mine, which is a business podcast, all the way down to very specific ones. I went to Podfest earlier this year and was talking with this young lady who had a heart transplant. And she now has a podcast where she talks with other people who have had heart transplants. That's about as niche down as you can get. Now, she's probably going to end up expanding that to maybe other transplants or who knows. But yeah, I mean, you can find a podcast for whatever it is that you do. So for anybody to say, "Oh no, hello, go to iTunes and look," and I mean, and then there's even more that people don't have on the services. They just, put out there on their own. So yeah, I mean, it is a fabulous marketing tool. And it is great. And for the most part, it's free. Now I'm saying that knowing our time has a value, right? So, but I do not charge my guests to be on my podcast. Now, if they are an author, I do say, if we're going to talk about the book, you need to provide me with a copy of your book. An e-version is perfectly acceptable. Otherwise, I would be totally overwhelmed with books. And but I don't charge. And there are some podcast hosts that do charge.
There are.
And
I came across a couple.
yeah, and it is a business for them, right? So they want to make money, but yeah, for the most part, this is a very limited cost for somebody who wants to do that. So if somebody comes to you and says, Tiago, what do I need to do first? What do you tell them?
Absolutely. That's a great question, Evan. It's also something that I struggled with. I just jumped in immediately after that program that I was
67 in.
And it's proof that anyone can do it. If I could do it without having something structured, without we're not knowing exactly what to do and how to be interesting, it basically comes with practice. Of course, there are ways for you to prepare yourself to be an amazing guest from the get-go, and that's exactly where I would jump in to help you out if that's the case. But the first thing for us to do is actually the first point of my dream method is the is 5 steps. So the D for the first D is the design, is actually part of this, which is how to position yourself as an amazing podcast guest and become an easy yes for the host, right? Because most people do like I was doing. I was just giving a bunch of advice, sharing information, but that doesn't make you stand out. So there's nothing that, okay, why should they hire you? Why should they invite you, right? What makes your story unique, different from everyone else? So in this part, what we should be doing is exactly, okay, thinking what is our hook? What makes us different from everything else, every other solution?
If I get 5 emails today, why am I going to pay attention to yours?
Exactly. And there are a couple of ways we can think about that, because many people say, but I don't have anything interesting. I'm just a coach, or something like that. But you can think about, for example, have a look at your origin story. What brought you here? There was probably a combination of skills that you matched, but there was probably some event that snapped out of you some specific new skill, or you met a mentor, or you tried something completely different. So what exactly makes you unique? What makes you you? And this is how you should start positioning yourself. And that's exactly what captured the attention of the hosts. Okay. And also the way you present your expertise should be structured, should be organized in an attractive way. So basically having your proprietary framework, something that is only yours, that people cannot Google, right? Even if you do the exact same thing as many other people do, there is always a way for you to make it unique to you. So you can create the framework I have here, the dream framework, because it's a dream scenario, marketing scenario. I split it into 5 different steps, and it's branded, it's my own, and that makes people think, okay, what is the dream method? That's interesting. Tell me more, right? So this is 2 things we could start doing immediately before we even start going on to the pitch phase. And also think a bit about your topics. What is the 3 to 4 main topics you want to discuss and bring about strategically? For example, if you're an author, it could be your chapters of your book. If you're a course creator, it could be the modules of the course. So think about those and be strategic about those. And then also create your media one sheet. There are some hosts that ask for it. I'm not sure. Do you care about
ask for it, and usually I will look at it, because typically there's a little bit different. But yeah, it's not the only thing we ask for.
It definitely makes you, again, different. It makes you look more professional. So there's something that,
and you can do those on Canva, folks. They're not hard to do.
Exactly. If you want to go to design, you can go on Canva. I like to do it simple. I do on Google Doc, just basically with your bio, what makes you different. That's what matters, is the information in there, right? I like to give the suggested topics and then suggested questions even, because some hosts like to have their life a bit more easy.
And I tell you, that is really important. The easier you make it for me, the host, the more likely I am to pick you. Because I don't have time to go off and be researching. Now, I do read the books. If I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to read the book. But when somebody initially sends me something, if it's not easy, then I'm not going to do it. And I have had people who have said, I've been doing this a really long time and I can go wherever you want. No. Don't make me think. Really, don't make me have to think about this. As you said, have those speaking points, have those topics ready. Now more than likely I'm going to go squirrel and go in a totally different direction, but make it easy for me to start with. And
Exactly.
some of the other stuff that I have seen that people do, sometimes they're contacting me via email. So I've got that email, but they don't give me their website URL. So then are they real? I ask if for their social connections, the ones that they want me to use to publicize them, so, and now it's not everywhere. I am on Facebook, I am on X and LinkedIn. I'm not messing with all the others,
No
but
Instagrams, no
yeah,
TikToks.
no, because that'd be what I do all day. But I want those. But yeah, make it simple for me, the host, to look at it and go, oh my gosh, we have to book Tiago.
Exactly. That's the kind of reaction we need to. Otherwise, it's just another one. Okay, I had so many of those kind of coaches. We need to stand out in that sense. So that's the first thing we should do. Yeah, to design the way we're going to position ourselves, basically, in the eyes of the hosts.
Right.
Okay.
You are the product. How are you selling yourself?
It's not about just me. How can we also add value to the host? Right. That's super important to keep. And then the next thing I like to do is the second part of the dream method, which is refine. And this is where we get confidence and clarity on our message. Okay, so it has to resonate with our target audience. Because if we just share a bunch of facts of our life, it's boring. Nobody cares. I went to this university. I did this. I did. So there's no real connection, and people will not. They'll start to doze out and not pay attention to what you're saying.
Or change the channel.
Change the channel. Tune into a different station. So what to do here is basically work on your origin story. Okay, make it structure in a way you probably never thought of it before, because most people don't take the time to sit down and really think about what brought them there here. We think it's all in our mind, but if we take the time to write it down, and especially following the storytelling frameworks that are out there, you will always find very interesting things that you probably forgot about, and that could become very interesting things for you to differentiate yourself. You might find your own proprietary framework there, or you can find your own hook through your origin story. Oh my God, there was an happening here in my life that actually sparked all of this. So thinking about, well, what was your life before? What sparked you to start taking some sort of action? When did you meet a mentor? Was it something, a mentor? Was it a book you read? Was it, and then think about how it starts changing and what exactly brought you to where you are today. So structure it in a way that is interesting. And always remember to put in the emotional words that your audience might be thinking exactly right now. Because they might be exactly like you were before. So the more you resonate with them and share those kind of stories, and storytelling always keeps people paying more attention, right? We're wired to think that way and pay attention. So that's the part where you should think about your audience and communicate in a way that attracts their attention. Okay.
Right.
Those are the first two steps. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's dissect those a little bit more, because it's so important to get those first ones right. And but there are some, there's a couple little basics that I want to make sure people know about. We might not always do video. Many podcasters don't. Now, in this day and age of Zoom, we at least in many cases want to see our guests. Now, I do have a YouTube channel. Do people watch it? No. Let's just be blunt. The program is an hour long. It's two talking heads.
Yeah.
Now they might have it on and they listen to it, but they're not going to sit and watch it like it's a fascinating TV program.
Very rare.
But YouTube is owned by Google. So if you want SEO, you need to be on YouTube, there. Right? Yeah. But yeah, so not every host though is going to do that. But you absolutely, positively, without a doubt, have to have good audio. So that means a good internet connection. It means now, we didn't say this. I should have said this in your introduction. You are in Portugal. Yes. That's, more than 10 miles away. There's an ocean between us. And, we still have an absolutely fabulous connection. Yes. Now, last week I would not have had a good connection because my internet kept coming and going. It was just kind of one of those weeks. But you have to have that, and so you need a good mic. The mic that I use is under $100. And then you have a headset on for people who are just listening. So you have a headset. I have an earpiece. I call it my CIA earpiece.
Wow, completely
Just because,
invisible.
I like to have the other ear open so I can hear what's going on in the world. And typically it's better to have a headset because if you're using the speakers on your computer, sometimes you get feedback. I don't know why that happens. It just does. So, those are just the basics. And if you don't have those, nothing else is going to matter. But then you absolutely have to know what the heck it is that you're going to talk about. And now I think just twice, I've had people who I was their very first podcast.
Oh.
Now I was gentle with them. But I knew it was their first podcast. And so, they both did really great jobs, but I knew they were nervous. And so, but that is kind of where Zoom comes in handy because you can see them, you can make faces, you can do all sorts of things, whether you're going to post it online or not. But yeah, it's kind of, I mentioned it's a marketing tool. Would you put a website up that was only halfway done? No.
No.
And so have good audio, be able to do that, and then know exactly what it is that you're going to say.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's a good point also about the audio quality. And the headset, I think it's prevents all those silly accidents that nobody needs, and many hosts also require it. So there's already like checklists. Oh, you need to have a microphone. You need to have so it's good to have that prep.
And your computer microphone isn't always the best. It depends. Now, like I said, I have an external mic. There is a mic on my camera, but I don't always use. I almost never use it. It's only, every once in a while mine will fritz out, but because technology just all of a sudden decides it's not always going to work.
It doesn't have to be expensive, like you said.
No,
a couple $100 you can get those Yeti, for example.
Yeah, that is mine. Mine is a blue Yeti. I'm going to move it into the picture. See, look, it's a blue Yeti.
And Debbie's doing this for almost 1,000 episodes. So.
Oh yeah, and this is only the second mic I've ever had. So, and now there are people who get really carried away. They have the soundproof rooms that,
and that could also be in danger if you start being too perfectionist.
Right.
I'll only start doing it when I have the perfect studio.
Oh yeah.
And then they keep postponing it. It's a big problem.
Right.
For both sides, guest and host.
Yeah. I mean, I shut my door and I have a sign that says on the air, which I love. You have one in, and so my husband and my cats know, don't come in. I've seen, I've interviewed guests who have had signs that they put on their doors because their kids are there. And they said, literally the sign says, unless you are bleeding, do not knock on this door.
I love it.
But interruptions happen, right? It's just a fact of life. But yeah, you don't need the soundproof room. Now you do need to, again, still have good audio. I was interviewing a guest one time, and this is before we had Zoom, so it was just audio only, and I kept hearing this loud, kind of whiny noise, and I finally just stopped, and I said, "What is that?" And he said, "Oh, I'm sitting on my deck, and they're cutting trees down next door." And I said, go inside. But then I also interviewed a guest who was talking about the freedom that she had as owning her own business. And she was poolside. And, it was not overly distracting. So we left it. I thought it was actually kind of interesting.
Topical, right? Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, she would have easily moved if a whole group of teenagers came in and started being loud and all of that. But yeah, but you don't want to be by the freeway. Things happen. I mean, like I've had, guests where I can tell when they're close enough to a street that a siren goes by. We're forgiving of those things. But,
absolutely.
But again, it really does come back to your message. If you don't know what the heck you're going to talk about, then get that figured out.
You can do that. You can experiment like I did, the 67 podcast. But you most likely nothing will come out of it, right? You can have 67 chats, random chats with people. You can have amazing connections with the host, but
Right.
you know,
You
if you
probably
don't,
got about
yeah,
five-ish things that, I mean, like you mentioned, you have your dream framework. That's five
yeah,
things, right? Because it's an acronym.
exactly.
So, yeah, you can come up with, a small handful of things that you're going to talk about almost every time.
Absolutely, absolutely, and then it makes it's a waste of time if you just go
Mhm,
on chat like I
mhm.
did. It was a big no-no. But yeah, so that's why I learned by doing, right? I did all the
Right.
mistakes. I learned a lot from the hosts, and I
Mhm,
tested different things.
mhm,
And now, so those are the first two steps that we discussed. So designing,
mhm,
make sure you're
mhm,
attractive for the hosts.
mhm,
Make sure you have a story to tell
mhm,
that will capture the attention of your listeners.
mhm,
And then, okay, now we're prepared. We can
mhm.
go on to
Right. We're
engaging,
ready. We're
right?
ready. Mhm,
To connect with the hosts in a way
mhm,
that attracts their attention and
mhm,
makes you stand out, right?
mhm.
So, and the way that you probably know more about this because you receive hundreds of pitches per day. But most people that do this kind of outreach, they talk about me. Like I'm
Mhm.
this, I'm good, I'm amazing. This is where I did
Mhm.
before. But that's the wrong approach because it's
Right.
all about the hosts. How
Mhm,
can we make their
mhm.
lives easier, right? How
Yeah.
can we
Mhm,
sure we add value to their
mhm,
audience, right? So that's the kind of approach we should be doing, and I can
mhm,
share at the end that I have a
mhm,
resource, a template I can
mhm.
share with
Right.
you. Right?
Ooh, cool.
So the first email you should
Mhm,
send it has to, first of all, you have to create some sort of connection with the host.
mhm,
I advise you to listen to a couple of episodes,
mhm. Yeah.
maybe give a comment about,
Mhm,
oh, I enjoyed this
mhm.
episode, it was amazing.
Because we pay
Um,
attention. We
you pay
notice
attention to
these
it.
things. Mhm,
Exactly. And then just briefly show how you would add value to
mhm,
the host's
mhm,
audience. And then give a couple of maybe you can share
mhm,
your own the bio that we
mhm,
talked about, the media
mhm,
one sheet. And then never forget about the follow-up. It's super important
mhm,
because I had so many hosts that told me, Tiago, thank you so much for sending me the third email. I
mhm,
looked at your first. I
mhm.
meant to answer,
Right.
but I was in an event and I
Mhm,
couldn't answer. So super important
mhm,
nowadays, the follow-up. The power really is
mhm,
there. And then yeah, you start booking your
mhm,
podcasts. You might have some qualifying
mhm,
chats, right?
mhm,
Those 10 to 15 minutes pre-chats.
mhm,
But that's all you have to
mhm,
know about this is that you have to add value to the host,
mhm,
make their lives as easy as
mhm.
possible, and follow up consistently. That's
Right.
the only thing you have to
Mhm,
do.
mhm. Right.
Um, Tell me.
Yeah. And when you're sending these emails, keep them short, folks. When I get some emails and it's war and peace, I'm like, no, I need it
Testimonial.
short and sweet, which is where having a one sheet does come in handy. I can glance at that. And okay, we call it a one sheet. Sometimes it's two, but don't make it any longer than that. But I'm going to look at that. I'm going to read the bio. And it's always going to have a picture, and because we do use those
Yeah.
when we promote the programs. But but it doesn't have to be professionally done. I mean, in this
Yeah.
day and age, our cameras can do pretty good, our phones can do pretty good. And now, we'll talk about AI later. I mean, this is, we can
Yeah.
do all sorts of things with that. But yeah, if I can glance at something and in less than about a minute make a decision as to whether this is going to be a good guest or not, that's what is, and yeah, I get a lot of these, like we were saying, every day. But even if it's somebody who's, they don't, you still, they're doing other things. So keep your pitch pretty simple. Now the ego in me does like it when somebody says, I really liked your program about this one where they talked about this. Now I'm not stupid, folks. I realize that somebody might have listened to 5 minutes worth of the program. And but at least they got something out of it. So I know that they went there. But more importantly, it means that they know this is a business podcast. I even called the Business Power Hour. I get pitches that are not business related. And so
Oh
typically
my.
I do go back and I will say, how can we make this more
Uh-huh.
of a business focus? Now, I also tell people it is my podcast. I could do what I want with it. And so there have been times where I have had totally non-business type of guests on. But yeah, it's you need to, and so the thing is, this in many cases is not cut, paste, cut, paste, cut, paste. You need to know a little bit about the program and things. Now, I did have one guest, and I've had her on twice, and she has become a friend, where her pitch to me was that she wrote a book on in vitro fertilization, and it's about her son Ferris, and so it's IVF, I'm very Ferris, and his name really is Ferris, and it's a cartoon book and all this, and I thought, well, this is cute, but I went back and I said, how can this be business related? And because I'm thinking, okay, that's a 5-minute conversation, right? And she said, well, I quit my job, I have had to learn how to do the marketing. And so that was what we made the program about. And so, yeah, if you're a little off topic, that's okay, but show how you can bring it back to being on topic. During COVID, we had programs that were about mental health, about exercising, about all sorts of things that you normally wouldn't talk about on a business podcast, but people were dealing with it because we were cooped up in our basements, our spare bedrooms, all those various things. And so we needed to talk about those. But I've also talked with other people about, like I said, I just, ooh, this sounds interesting, I want to talk about it. But yeah, make sure that your pitch shows that you at least read something about their program. But when you can talk about it in a little bit more detail, and it's a sentence, folks. It's just a sentence. I really loved your program about Tiago Faria, and I learned how to pitch myself. Let me, things like that. And so, yeah, that is what you want to do is, and again, that catches my attention.
Exactly. And what you said is completely true. Is that how can you add value to their audience? Well, how is your topic relevant to what the host is usually talking about with the other guests? So that's mega important. Okay, so that's the part of the engaging, and then we move on to the next part of my dream method, which is the attraction to basically the way you should be yourself and magnetically attract your ideal clients. That most of they're usually there. There's always a small percentage of people that will be interested in knowing more about you. And the mistake I was doing, again, it was just having a pointless conversation with no logical next step at the end. Usually the host would ask me, so how can people know more about you? And I would share something random like, I don't know, follow me on social media.
Right. Yeah. It's a marketing tool, folks. A marketing tool.
And I can show an example at the end if you ask me that question. But the idea is for you to have something compelling for the audience to do right afterward, after they listen to you. They see you in action, they hear your story. So what's the next thing they can do to help them, basically help them get at least one small step closer to their main goal, their main objective. And that's what the call to action is about at the end. So has to be something, the logical next step for the person to implement right now. And it can usually, I usually advise people to share either a free resource, like some freebies, like either videos or PDFs with some worksheets, something that people can implement quickly.
Because then you get them in your database.
Exactly. If you have an email list, you can do that. Or if you don't have, you can do something like I'm also doing here. I will share with you, which is to use your LinkedIn, etc. I can talk about that. But of course, ideally have an email list, because if you don't have an email list, if you have only followers, you don't have anything, right? Like you said, exactly. There's you're asking permission from Mr. Mark Zuckerberg, which
can I contact people today, Mark?
Exactly. That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, but I prefer to do the kind of call to action I prefer to do is basically creating almost an irresistible offer, right? Instead of just saying, I have this PDF for you, which most people do, or an ebook or something. I like to do, look, I have this set of videos that will help you do this one thing. And also it comes with worksheets that help you implement it. So kind of think about how can you make it as easy as possible and fast as possible for someone to implement a specific thing. Okay, that's the ideal scenario. Okay. And then finally we go to the last stage. But if you want to talk about the call to action, tell me if you have any.
Let's do a little bit more there to go into more detail. You have to have some type of call to action, even if it's just connect with me on LinkedIn. Because like we said, if somebody went, ooh, this was great, now what? You need to do that. And now I'll tell you, some of my favorite ones are the people. Now, this takes a little bit more technical savvy, some things like that. They will create a special landing page on their website. And, and now if you're doing 67 interviews in 30 days, you're not going to do this. But, it really impresses me when I go to that landing page, because I always go to the landing page just to make sure I have it right. But if it says, for the listeners of Deb Creer's The Business Power Hour, we have this special thing, and
that's incredible. Yes.
So I'm always like, ooh, especially if they put a graphic of me, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. But but that does take a little bit more technical knowledge to be able to do that, and so you might not be able to do that, but anytime you can say, here's what we've got. Now, if somebody has a book, I do put the link to it on Amazon, and I am an affiliate. Do I get rich that way? Absolutely, positively not. But to me, it's a good resource. I mean, if we just talked about somebody's book, I want to be able to show them how to find it. But the ones where people say, hey, we've got this great program, even if it's just that they say, here's the link for the contact us page. I will do that. But if I can get something for free, but again, more importantly, if you can capture somebody's email, no matter how you're doing it, then you can be reaching back out to them again, and be saying, okay, hey, we've got this program, we've got all of that stuff, and I've seen some that have been really sophisticated, where it's I'm going to download something, and so I do, and it will say, thank you for listening to our program on the Business Power Hour. I'm like, ooh, and now that's pretty sophisticated, but it's. Have that call to action, have some reason why people are going to reach back out to you.
Yes, and it's very important to be compelling, especially because the podcast audience, they're usually doing something else, right? In the car, driving, or at the gym. So we need to really have something that they would love to solve right now, some small problem that you would love to solve right now, because that's the only way that we will get their attention to pick up the phone, type the link, and do the work to get that to get to that stage. Otherwise, they will just I'll remember it later or something like that, and usually they forget about it. So that's why it's important to be compelling. So thinking about what is the specific problem that the audience is trying to solve right now, and it has to be an urgent problem. That's the ideal scenario, so that it makes them jump and takes some action.
Yeah. And this is again why it's so important to be on the right podcasts. If you're on a podcast where you even if you've done a real good pitch for everything that you're doing, if you're not talking to the right people who are going to want to further engage with you, you just had a good conversation. And sometimes those are fun, right? But no, you want to be on the podcasts that are reaching the people you want to work with. And so that comes all the way back to, do you even know who those folks are?
Exactly. Such a good point. Yes. Super important. It goes back to the first beginning stage. Who am I targeting? What problem I solve? What makes me different?
What is my niche?
What is my niche? Exactly.
Right.
That's awesome. So we attract the attention of people. We took them from to do some sort of action at the end of the episode, and then we go to the last stage of my dream method, which is multiply. Okay, the M of the dream, and this is where we leverage each episode we do. So we took 1 hour to an interview, and we can create marketing assets out of each episode we do, even before they go live. Because I know you have a much faster turnaround, but some podcasts, they take weeks or months to get published. So it's a good idea for you to, at least maybe you can ask the host to send you the raw file, so you can start creating some assets. Because most people get on an interview and then they just forget about it. They never even contact the host anymore. They don't follow them. But this period between recording and go live is probably the most profitable, because the host just saw you in action. They got to know you, like you, and trust you. So it's a good idea also to nurture the relationship with the host. So because if you really clicked at the end, there's always a possibility for you to help each other, basically. If you approach it genuinely, if you ask questions, if you show that you care, there's always something that can come out of it. Either can be like a referral for other podcast hosts, right? That's an amazing thing. can be a exchange of referrals for their own businesses or programs. There's always something that can come out of it if you nurture the relationship in a positive, abundant way, right? And also start creating multiple assets out of the interview, so you can have content for your own following, right?
Right.
So lots of wins that can be made out of. That's why I love this so much.
Right. And I tell you what, as the host, I notice, especially if they've tagged me, right? And so, one of the things that we do is my producer, Kim, she sends the email and it will, now typically she doesn't send them until it's pretty close to when it's going to go live. So I'll send you the images, further in advance, but because I'm happy to help with that. But yeah, so she'll send the links. And the reason we do that is because we've had people who've promoted the links too early and they're not live yet. And then they get all these emails. But yeah, so she will send that. She also makes sure that our social links for both me and the program are there, because just like I want people to make it easy for the host, I want to make it easy for the guests. I've seen ones where they have actually written the posts and you cut and you paste them, works for me. That's pretty easy to do. So again, keep it simple, but don't make them go hunt and find for it, because they're going to come up with, well, for one thing, they're going to say no, or they find the wrong one. I mean, what if they tag the wrong Deb Creer? Now, there's not a lot of other Deb Creers in this world, but what if they do tag the wrong thing? It might easily tag the wrong program. And so we don't want that to happen. So yeah, we send a follow-up email that says here is everything you need in order to promote the program. And if somehow we've forgotten something, just let us know and we're more than happy to provide it. But yeah, like I said, we do notice.
Absolutely. You do notice. It's that's why I'm saying, I'm sure you noticed that before, if like most people wait until it's published and then, oh, thank you so much for publishing. But if between that period of time after the recording and the publishing, if the guest starts creating anticipation posts on their social media, tagging you, saying thank you so much, it starts showing that that guest will actually help you promote the episode. He's motivated to, and it's going to be helpful, right? And you notice that, like, it stays in your mind, even if you have done almost 1,000 episodes. I'm sure you notice those hosts.
I do. If they tag me, I will respond.
Yeah. It's very important to keep that connection, because you meet podcast hosts are amazing, like Deb. They know, they probably interviewed almost 1,000 people, so there's a large network. They're influential people in our areas, so it's a very smart thing to do, to nurture relationship and see how you can help each other out.
Right. Oh, definitely. And now here's the funny thing about this. You and I were talking before the program. I have started guesting on other people's podcasts. And, and I keep thinking, I need to learn so much from all of this, because, I have. I mean, you're episode 962. I've been doing this a long time. But from the guest's perspective, I have made mistakes. And so it's interesting. And so what I'm going on and talking about is an initiative that I started called Trying Not to Die.live, which is about how to, it's the target are people who have cancer or are associated with somebody who has cancer. How do you support them? And so, but it goes, it's my personal story. I mean, I am on cancer number 3. I'm done, not signing up for any more. But it's how are you resilient? How are you powerful? All of those various things. So to me, at least, it's a good message to be spreading. And I have a really unique story. I mean, it's pretty wonkadoodle.
Multiple stories.
And, it's the surgery that I had last summer was actually surgery number 33 that I have faced on this journey. And
there's
I'm
a lot
only
of things
8
with number
years.
3.
33 surgeries, and almost died 3 times. I mean, all sorts of things. So, all of this but my biggest thing that I don't do, and I kick myself because of this, is I don't always repost about the program, right? I always had a great time, but I get the emails from them, or I see the social posts, because sometimes they don't notify me. It's just, there's a social post about me. And I think I'll go do that later.
Problem.
And so it is really funny because just yesterday I had the discussion with my producer and I said, this is a totally different thing. Can I add to your list of duties that you will now promote me when I've been a guest? And I said, we're talking like an hour a week. This is not a ton. I do, maybe 4 or 5 interviews a month. So this is not, but, and you would think that I would know to, no, I mean, I'm horrible about it. And so it's kind of one of those things. So make sure it's on your to-do list, folks. Make sure you do that. Because when somebody is a guest and I don't see that they promote, I do know they're busy. I mean, they're very busy business people or they wouldn't be doing this. But my first thought is they didn't enjoy it. They did not like what happened. So they don't want to promote it. Hopefully that's not really the case, right? But yeah, it's make yourself a calendar note or whatever it is that you have to do, but promote that because, Tiago was talking at the very start. These are marketing assets that you need to be putting out there to promote yourself. So why aren't we doing it? Well, because we're lazy and we're forgetful.
But instead of because I'm sure people are creating content constantly, right? If they're online. This is now interview. You can create multiple assets like
I know.
5, 10 reels, quote cards, anticipation posts, and it's all things that will position yourself as an authority because you've been interviewed by someone that is giving you their own authority by
guilt by association.
By association, exactly. You can also be sending it to leads that are kind of cold and you want to warm them up. Look at me, I've been interviewed in this episode. I talk about my story. Right? It should be it's an amazing weapon you have that is easy to create because you're just chatting with someone and then you can leverage it multiple ways. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Right. Yeah. And okay, so the DREAM method was design, refine, engage, attract, and multiply. So pretty easy to remember, folks. And we'll, later on, we'll give you the opportunity to know exactly how to reach Tiago. But, the thing that really is changing so rapidly is the use of AI on podcasts. And it's so exciting from both the guest and the podcast host to know that there's all this technology. I mean, when I started doing this, I was actually in a radio station, got in my car, went to the radio station, did it there, drove back. It took half a day to be able to do all of this, right? And then I moved. How rude. And so we did the record. We would do the program live via Skype, which worked most of the time. But when it failed spectacularly, right? I would get text messages and they would say dead air. I'm like, oh, it was like, well, that didn't work. And then, we hit on the lovely ability to be able to pre-record, which I love, right? Because it's, it's almost 3:00 for you, if I'm doing my math right. It's almost 4. Almost 4, yeah. Almost 11 for me. That's not too big a time difference, but I've interviewed people where, it's if we were doing it live, it'd be 2:00 in the morning. Bleh, who wants to do that? But yeah, so we pre-record and then we transition to Zoom, and so that I've kind of gone with the technology. I haven't embraced AI as much as I should. And I really need to do that because it will generate those short clips. It will generate all of those various things that I can use to promote the program and that then my guests can use also. And I think that's one of the things that is going to be so cool about all of this is, again, we're going to make it simpler for people.
Absolutely. And I've been also discovering that because many hosts share with me what they're doing. So there's platforms like Descript. I don't know if you've heard of it, where you just upload the whole raw video file. It transcribes the whole interview perfectly through AI. It identifies who is the speaker, who is the host and guest. You can basically correct it, remove the ums, the ahs if you want. I've seen it in action. But we don't need to do that. We're genuine people, right? You can then, with that, create a blog post to put it on your website and leverage even more SEO juice with Google, right? You can use AI to, please show me 10 interesting moments of this interview so I can create some reels, and then it's easy for you to create those kind of things using those platforms. So yeah, AI is helping us be more efficient, basically,
Right.
losing less time. But I still advise myself included to not just copy paste whenever we see
Right.
an example of a post.
If it says this is a good clip, listen to it.
Exactly. It's still I don't believe in just simply copy pasting in anything with AI, because we still need to have. Imagine we're creating a post, creating anticipation about the interview. We should always still add our voice, our own voice, our own personality. Not just simply copy pasting, but it definitely is going to make our life so much easier.
Right. Oh yeah. And it is. I mean, it's one of those things where it has been so simple to be able to do some of this that we just haven't done it, right? It's almost kind of like counterintuitive. And so that is kind of the weird thing is we're like, yeah, but when I see it in action, it's very cool. I had a guest on several weeks ago who AI is his specialty. Now he's a lot younger, and so and it comes a lot more naturally to him. But at the same point, he understands how important this is. So he asked for the raw Zoom footage. That was great. And they can't cut me out. So I figure, not a problem with that. And it was like we were saying before the thing, unless they are going to say, oh my God, this is horrible, and you don't want to, ever be interviewed by this person, it's just more promotion for me and for the program. And so I sent him the raw Zoom footage, and he himself created several little promo videos that he used. And I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. Took him probably 10 minutes, right? Because he, but yeah, I mean, it was just now you as a guest, are you going to do it? All depends. I mean, it depends on your knowledge, right? If you know how to do that and can do it pretty easily, sure, you're probably going to do that. But, at the same point, it's one of those where it's I, like I said, I love it when the guest takes that initiative and really does stuff, but I as a host need to do a better job about that too. Because it's raising us all up, right?
Exactly. I was impressed when that host sent me those 5 reels on. It's really the eye-opening moment, and it's super abundant. Everyone gets to win because the guest gets content. It gives credit to the host, gives more people will watch the podcast. So it's a very smart thing to do to multi-purpose every episode and not just wait until it's published and that's it.
Right. And it's interesting what you can do with it. As I mentioned, I went to Podfest earlier this year, and there was a small panel on AI, and they were talking about, what they did. 2 of the hosts were 8 and 10. Wow. Right now, these were the cutest, most professional young gentlemen in the world.
AI native.
I know. They might have been AI. Who knows? But their podcast was a daily Bible study. It was just the most precious thing in the world, right? And but they wwere talking about how they used AI, and all of us old people sat there and went, whoa, right. But yeah, and so 8 and 10. And they were talking about how they used AI to promote their program. But part of it was the time perspective, because they're in school, and they're in school when most people are working and probably listening to podcasts. And so they needed to automate doing the promotion in order to hit the people who were going to listen. And we can automate a lot of stuff. We can do it pretty easily with scheduling posts and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I was just blown away by the fact that these little bitty dudes were really using this in a great way.
That's incredible, and they're native. I'm scared with I have a 3.5-year-old daughter. she's
I
going to be
know.
like, I don't know, using her brain just to
Mhm.
to search
Yeah.
for things.
Oh
It's
yeah,
going to be crazy.
and to me it's all cool. I'm kind
Yeah.
of one of those middle adopters. I let other people kind of fiddle with it first, and then I'll jump in. But yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. We were talking before the program. I mean, we're gonna start having total AI generated podcasts.
Oh, yes.
There's obviously a lot of content about
Maybe soon
me.
we have a
Yeah.
host AI and a
Oh
guest
yeah,
AI
yeah. And
talking to each other.
and they could certainly, I mean, it'd be pretty easy right now for somebody to completely create an AI host for me
Yeah.
because of all the content that's out there.
All
And
the jokes
so
you've done,
I
all the
know
stories you
all the
told.
bad dad jokes. I mean, all of those
Bad dad
things,
jokes.
and so it'd be very interesting to see what could be done with it.
No, you have to do that.
And
You
so
have
then
to.
I can automate it and go sit at the beach, right? you know. So, we've been talking about the dream method and, which was again, design, refine, engage, attract, and multiply. But so many people are going, oh, I don't want to do this myself. I know I need to, but I need help. So, Tiago, tell us how people find you and what are the services that you provide.
Well, thank you so much for the question, Dev. And yeah, so for those that want to do it themselves,
Mhm.
there's I set up a whole bunch of things for your listeners for free because
Cool,
I know how hard
great.
it is to get booked, to
Hmm.
press host, to know how to be an amazing guest.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
don't have to go through the 67 podcasts like I did to figure it all the hard way. I
I
cracked
love
the
it.
code, and
Hmm.
I'm gonna share with you so you can start doing it the right way. So first, you'll get access to my Being an Amazing Guest worksheet that I use
Hmm.
for with my clients. If you complete that, you'll immediately position yourself as an attractive guest that stands out from the pack, like we talked about in our chat, and become an easy yes for hosts. Okay,
Hmm.
that's the first thing I'll share with you, and then I'm gonna also share with you the origin story worksheet. Okay, where you simply have to answer a few prompt questions
Hmm.
and seamlessly craft your origin story in a way that it resonates actually with the listener.
Oh, I
It's
love it.
important to keep their attention and generate trust, right? And this is where most people screw up, including me.
Hmm.
If you're getting on podcasts and not getting any result out of it, you're messing up on this point, on the
Hmm.
storytelling
Hmm.
part. Because if you're just telling a bunch of facts, just sharing
Yeah.
some information, it doesn't resonate. People
Hmm.
don't click with it. And finally, I'll share with you also the email template that got me booked on those
Oh,
67 podcasts
perfect.
and that received multiple answers from hosts
Hmm.
saying, I usually don't get these answer to these emails, but I have to say that this one was one of the best that I've got. And this
I
will make you stand
responded.
out, get through the whole host filters. Yes, indeed.
Hmm. Hmm.
And to get access to these, all you have to do is go to tiagofaria.pt/gift. I'll share with you the link.
Okay.
It directs you to my LinkedIn profile
Hmm.
because my website is still in Portuguese. I'm
Hmm.
working on internationalizing it.
I discovered that. Hmm.
And you just commented the word gift.
Okay.
Yes, you just comment the word gift on that post, and I'll
Okay.
share it with you.
Perfect.
You can also contact me there
Hmm.
if you value more your time
Hmm.
than most people, and you just want to get it done.
Hmm.
You can contact me. I have a done for you service
Hmm.
where I would just take it all off your plate, uh, take the reins, and all you have to do is just show up in interviews, have a nice conversation with the host, and I'll start also generating content for you.
Perfect.
So those are the two options that I would have for you guys.
I love it. I love it. And we will put your LinkedIn contact in there. We'll have your LinkedIn connection. So that makes that easy too. This has been so much fun. And I have to share with the people, we were saying one of the most important things is that you have good internet. No, ours failed. Mine failed spectacularly. I finally had to give up, and I'm using my neighbor's Wi-Fi. And so maybe that just means that as you're doing this, you got to have backup plans, right? Just in case the things fail. But yeah, we're having a great time doing this. And yeah, that really is. I mentioned at the very start, the most fun marketing that people will ever do. And I tell you what, I had fun today. And so I hope that Tiago did too.
No, I had a ton of fun. Thank you so much. It was a true honor, a true pleasure to be here and to be part of your 1,000 guest journey. I can't wait to see when it reaches that
I
point.
love it. I love it. Well, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is for us to just if you want to do this, it's important to get prepared, yes, but it's also important for you to just get out there. Just try a lot of you'll hate your first interview. You'll probably hate your second interview. You start improving a bit better on the third interview. So it gets better with massive amounts of action. Maybe not as crazy as I did with 67 in 4 months, but like you're doing a good rhythm, like 4 per month. It's a very good rhythm. And you'll get there by experimenting, by testing the waters. And if you're prepared, things will start, growing very quickly, and it can be super, super cool.
Perfect. I love it. Well, I really have been having so much fun today talking with Tiago Faria. I'm Deb Creer, and until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.